Good to see ya, Persona fans. Since Persona 4 Revival is still likely 2 years away, let's bridge the gap by ranking some social links from the golden version.
I actually found this much more difficult to rank than Persona 3's, a game which I felt much more clearly separates the good ones from the bad.
Bust out that cell phone.
Why, Emmy Ree?
Why? I still want a girlfriend.
Oh dear God! It burns! Persona 4's biggest strength is the quality of its characters, which made this more difficult.
But let me tell you, there are still some real duds. So what better way to start than by roasting the worst of the bunch? Let's go! Good Lord, this social link is so empty. Even emptier than the number 0, with none of the infinite possibilities. Margaret's social link sucks.
And aside from this inappropriateness, the entire thing takes place in the Velvet Room. It's nothing but a bunch of boring, tedious persona fusing, trying to satisfy her outlandish requests.
And for what?
Some wordplay that's so bad it thinks it's funny, but it does nothing to make us feel rewarded for the dungeon crawling, leveling up personas just to get the right moves and fuse them, and almost none of them are any better than regular ones you'd fuse anyway, so it doesn't help from a gameplay perspective either. Some make no general sense. Why would she be so excited to fuse a mangy crow with an attack magic when the persona's magic stat is below average? And others, you have to go hardcore, fusing a lesser Jack Frost persona with a certain skill before using it in a recipe to make a more powerful Black Frost persona with another skill. It's so boring.
And these awful jokes!
What kind of Yatagarasu is a crow with 3 legs? I accidentally told you the answer. What happens in the Velvet Room, nobody knows, but the master has a very long nose.
This is humor? Should I be stitching my sides up from laughing so hard?
If we look at the constant fusions that you have to perform, the only one of these requests I found useful was Trumpeter. It's the toughest to make, requiring a sacrificial hexagon of 6 separate personas. But the result is a strong ghost death creature that learns some great skills, like Debilitate for endgame boss fights. But other than that, it's just all fluff, time-killing, and filler. Compare this with Elizabeth from Persona 3, who you could show around town and teach her how the world works, and Margaret looks even more unappealing. The only time she vacates the room is to basically non-consensually kiss the protagonist. Unless you're a completionist who wants the special orb item that allows you to fight Margaret, I highly recommend ignoring every single one of her requests. It won't hurt you in any way, and will make a 140-hour game at least a few hours shorter and less frustrating.
Yes, I know that winning that boss fight against Margaret gives you tons of answers to the lore of Persona 3. But even with that, Margaret's link is easily the worst in the game. Or no, actually there was one other that challenged her for that infamously poor ranking. The Fox link just feels like a time loop. Seriously, it's like the same thing repeated 10 times. Which means you get sick of it by the end of rank 2. I can't even try to make this sound exciting.
Here's how it goes. Fox gives you an Emma request. You go find the person or do the thing, report to the Fox. Fox does a little dance, getting ever more obsessed with the money flowing into the shrine. Fox gives you another Emma request. And on, and on, and on. Rinse, repeat. As talented as the protagonist is, he can't master the language of reclusive foxes, so there's never any dialogue or character growth whatsoever. Similarly to Margaret, the gameplay buff you get is very minuscule. you simply get a discount on the Fox's SP restoring services inside the TV world.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely need that.
I don't have nearly enough soda cans and tomatoes and everything else that do the same thing. Many players have more than enough money to pay him, even if they do run low on supplies. So that is a non-factor, unless you're a hardcore player on expert mode, which I am way too old and impatient to suffer through.
Also, this link has the most convoluted fetch quests.
Truthfully, the entire thing is fetch quests. You have to find a menagerie of unfortunate souls who are grappling with many tales of woe in order to help them, including lost dogs, who the game names Koro in reference to Koromaru, but ends up just being a generic mutt. You have to get stickers to give this kid to help him make friends, which goes on forever, and help a man overcome a fear of cats, of all things. They take days each to complete. To top this tedium off, the final rank makes you get specific bugs and fish for half an hour to land this gigantic guardian of the goddamn sea.
Which is only the start of it.
Afterwards, you have to upgrade your fishing rod by showing that huge mackerel to the old fisherman, spend 3 days, no exaggeration, on a scooter to find a beach, to bait your hook again with very specific bugs, again, and toss it in the ocean to land this gigantic ultra guardian fish, which that old fisherman just had to see before he kicked the bucket. All just to make the fox go through the exact same song and dance for the 10th consecutive time. It's very draining, and the payoff is not worth it in the least.
oh, look, the shrine is encased in gold now. Yay for me, I guess?
Margaret and the fox could be swapped, but in my opinion, these two are easily the worst. They don't build any common ground or emotional stakes with the hero, yet they require the most tedious, painstakingly hard to find things in the game, either banal NPCs, complete with necessary dialogue choices that take forever and a day, or dungeon farming, going through dozens of extra battles, desperately trying to find the correct personas and shuffles, or leveling old ones up to get the right skills. It's just not a fun experience.
Ignore both of them. The story won't be affected in the least, and you will enjoy Persona 4 a lot more for having not experienced them. Let's shift our focus now to people who are much less insufferable, just not quite on par with the rest. What's with all the athletic characters in the social links of these Persona games being ranked so low?
I love sports myself, so I would have pictured characters like Daisuke, as well as the two athletes from Persona 3, Kaz and Mamoru, to be much more interesting.
But like them, Daisuke just isn't.
Daisuke's a typical jock, who has trouble expressing anything more than simple thoughts. His entire arc is basically learning to cope with a rough first girlfriend experience and stop smiting the advances of possible new matches as they watch him practice.
There's no originality to this whatsoever. Everything that plays out here you could see on any teen drama show that's ever existed.
There's the whole cluster of cliches. Jock's best friend sets him up on a triple blind date without him knowing so he can try and move on. His friends eventually make him admit he's scared and to stop being stuck in the past. And then the jock musters up the courage to talk to his ex to see if there's still something there.
But oh, shocker! She's already moved on.
I really did like you back then.
Bet you didn't see that coming.
You never see it coming.
There's almost nothing to do with soccer in the whole social link, despite him being the captain of the team. All that happens is Daisuke struggles with his performance. Yeah, some captain. He doesn't even make the other players follow through on cleanup duty, which makes the protagonist do extra work. And soccer is why I chose him over Ko my first time through. I loved playing it in school, but the only thing that comes of that is Daisuke acknowledging he just half-asses everything because he's afraid of what will happen if he peaks and can't get better. What kind of dumb subplot is that? Ko actually ranks a lot higher, so it's not just a matter of him being an athlete.
Got that? It's my life. You guys have nothing to do with it.
Big fail here. Maybe if we shift our focus from jock to nerd, it'll get a little better? Maybe?
This kid sucks. One of your first dialogue choices with him is literally to say, "Wow, you're a little prick."
That's some pretty damning evidence for him being this low on the rankings board.
It's bad enough he has that stereotypical grating pubescent voice.
Huh? Like this? About this.
In fact, it's one of the few times I'm grateful Persona 4 doesn't have much for voice acting in its social links.
No kidding.
See? Even Shu agrees.
For real though, it's alarming how much condescension and disdain this guy shows towards others. He complains about this transfer student's derogatory behavior, and in the next sentence, whines about how stupid his classmates are, not seeing the connection. Later on, he's whining about girls being stupid, and about how his doting mother constantly praises him. It's made very obvious how this link is going to progress too. He's not as confident as he initially portrays, and then the mother comes in screeching at him for cheating on the test, revealing that the transfer dude he was insulting was actually smarter than Shu was. This nightmare dream he shares attempts to have him share some vulnerability, metaphorically showing his mental imprisonment, as his life literally seems to be on the rails, which does have a bit of payoff later, but it's a small payoff. Another annoying trait of this is how barely anything the protagonist says has any impact. You know how in most social links, if you do the right thing or stand up for someone, you get a nice boost in the link's growth, illustrated by 3 musical notes? Well, here, you get nothing. Or maybe just 1, even if it was clearly the right choice when you make the most mature statement.
Somewhat happy? I've been spending half a year trying to teach this kid both academics and life lessons, and the best reaction he can repay me with is being somewhat happy?
Even this seemingly heartwarming turnaround at the end, where he abruptly decides to quit studying and pick up baseball, just doesn't do anything for me. There's no lead-in. It comes out of nowhere.
We can play baseball together sometime, though.
And I've played baseball before, for years. It's not the easiest game to just pick up and play. In fact, it's very difficult to jump into any sport when your competition has had a decade-long head start. But jumping into baseball at 14 without any practice or even basic exercise? Pitchers would strike him out so fast that he'd be a whining, sniveling ball of snot by the end of his first game!
It does have this amusing section of all the party members joining him for his birthday, which tries to be wholesome and funny at the same time. But even the main cast are in agreement with me on the overall vibe that he exudes.
Stupid. Perfect. That's what this social link is. Moving on to more shocking selections. How dare I? How dare I put a main party member this low, right? Chie's very likable, despite her emotional fluctuations.
I can't believe this! You guys suck!
She's got tons of great points. She's a great friend and an awesome fighter.
Let me do it! Ready to go! Ha! Yeah! All right!
So why the hell was it so hard to design an engaging social link for her? Because apparently it was!
There's so little here that isn't already explored on during the very earliest moments of the story, where Chie successfully faces her shadow self, acknowledging that urge she has to protect her friends can sometimes go a bit too far. Most of the time, you just see the hero training with Chie by the riverbank, where she proceeds to bicker with ex-boyfriends who try and home in on Yukiko, or freak out about a grasshopper that lands on her back.
Oh, bet that surprised you. The strong, determined physical fighter is actually afraid of a tiny organism. Oh, that writing is gold. Golden.
You indulge Chie's appetite, which again is referenced ad nauseum, where she again regurgitates how she should protect Yukiko, just like before.
Talking about that, Yukiko? She says I'm protecting her.
So creative.
Then there's this awkward interchange where this awful, cringeworthy ex-boyfriend gets attacked by a gang of thugs. So you get the protagonist there with Chie, and no matter what you choose, it ends up playing out basically the same, with her reacting as she always has. Next thing, it's like the link is on repeat. There's that awful Takeshi guy talking about how Yukiko would be better if she was still gloomy, and guess what Chie talks about?
No, seriously. Guess where this leads.
She talks about protecting Yukiko again. No way! And you'd think that this was leading up to something more substantial, but when you get to the max link, it's the exact same thing, just with a random young kid instead. Okay, I will give this section credit. Chie is being completely blackmailed here.
Cause who knows what'll happen to Yukiko-san if you get in our way.
And in exchange for hopefully letting the kid and Yukiko go unscathed, offers up a free shot to this awful gang of losers.
The face, the gut, just pick a target, as hard as you want.
What? But what did that accomplish? What's to stop that gang from following through on their threat?
She says she'll look out for Yukiko for a while, but she can't always be there, and she goes into this big monologue about how she
Wants to protect everyone! Yeah! You got it too! How did you ever guess that?
Chie doesn't evolve or change. She gets placed in a bunch of situations that reinforce the traits we already know, and she responds in ways that we already knew she would.
Social links should be at least somewhat surprising and give us new, otherwise locked away insights into a character's psyche. Chie's social link doesn't even attempt to do this.
Everything that happens is entirely predictable, which in turn makes it boring to sit through. And that's the worst quality a social link can have. If she wasn't such a great main character, she'd honestly rank even lower.
How I feel about this isn't fake. I really want to protect them.
I never would have guessed.
I get it. The whole theme of Persona 4 is to reach out to the truth, no matter how misguided or uninformed we might be.
I also realize that Teddy encompasses this theme perfectly, being completely unaware of his own identity and having to carve out his own path even when his own shadow dissuades him from even trying. Every part of that is admirable.
I am a shadow, the true self.
Here's the thing.
He's just so annoying and unlikable that it hampers the effectiveness of that message and his own character development.
Persona is well known for having wacky JRPG speaking animal protagonists and mascot characters, but Teddy is by far the most aggravating.
Shooby-dooby.
The high, scratching pitch of his voice,
You forgot about me. I was abandoned.
Aren't you listening? I was utterly, totally, and 100% alone!
his unrelenting gross behavior towards the female party members that never matures in the least,
Hey, Ted! Hands off my corn!
Teddy, you got ketchup on my yukata.
and his manipulation of the male party members to wreck some real solid chances for them to get closer to the girls.
Teddy just becomes insufferable, in my opinion.
Especially when he transforms into a human. And I get it, he's basically a blank slate, body and mind, which is still disturbing as hell.
Wait, did you say you're like a newborn? Then don't take the bottom part off.
So yeah, because of his company, he's going to emulate teenagers and the media, which accounts for why he's inappropriate at times. But over 100 hours in, despite being reprimanded constantly, he doesn't mature in the least.
Get him? Yeah, let's finish him off.
Babes, what's come over you? Why are you so mad at me?
Like, at the hospital, thinking it's okay to blurt out everyone's physical details? Seriously? Not to mention so many awful puns.
I've been deliberating over it for a long time now.
This land feels so barren.
Strip? I know what that is. It's the thing zebras have, right?
Oh.
Strip. Like a zebra, right? Right? At this rate, it might end up getting bare naked.
Bare naked?
Oh man, here it comes.
Was I supposed to laugh?
Terrible flirting and uncouth behavior,
Oh, please, everyone. Don't fight over me, baby.
and screeching loudly, again with that grating, awful voice.
Welcome home! I've been waiting forever and ever for this day!
Teddy, would you please stop talking?
He shows some soft spots of remorse, like when he knew he promised to go back to his world after the case was closed, and we empathize with him when he seems to be at loose ends regarding what he really is. There's some rare glimpses of maturity and progression, and the bond he's able to make with Nanako is definitely heartwarming, potentially culminating in him saving her life. And that's huge. It's the reason why he's not in the basement of the rankings. But despite each of the Social Link rank ups showing some character growth, his obnoxious behavior in between and during all of these segments just seems to nullify any progress you think he's made. Like here, he's offering thanks to the hero, then literally 2 minutes later, he jumps into that hot spring. I try to judge social links mostly on the ranks themselves and not the character actions in the greater plot, but I just can't put such an unlikable character any higher.
I know that many of you will disagree with this ranking, and that's totally fair. I get it. But for me, Teddy just barely avoids being ranked at the bottom.
Hey, that wasn't a bad joke.
Oh no, we're not ending this on a lame pun. Oh, let's see here. Come on. Haha, here we go. This is better.
I'm sorry, Teddy. Only people have human rights.
This social link with the nurse is all over the place. It's got some disturbing stuff littered throughout, which does make sense, as it is the Devil Arcana.
I think one of my favorite parts of this social link is the ominous rattling sound you hear at the start of each of your night shifts at the hospital.
Oh, that is legitimately creepy. That sound could freak anybody out, even in the comfort of their own home.
But that's just the start of the inappropriateness. Depending on the protagonist's choices, this nurse just seems to be, well, no one knows for sure, but the fact that the screen cuts to black means it's probably some risque stuff. The first 2 levels of this social link have absolutely no character development whatsoever, just a nurse enjoying this new development as the protagonist drops by every once in a while. Then, it pivots completely. I won't play the actual sound, but you hear this horrific, insulting argument against Soyoko, brought about because of her being involved with another nurse's husband in a blown-up case of infidelity. Suddenly, the whole flirtatious vibe of the whole thing is abandoned. The nurse has a career crisis in multiple forms. First over how she loses the patients that she once cared for, even when it's a great thing that they recovered and were discharged. And another time is heavier when a young patient she used to work with passes away.
There's this very heavy mood of loss of agency and helplessness that contrasts completely from the very start. and it's jarring.
It completely shifts the tone from rebellious flirtation to life-changing events that the nurse confides to the protagonist with. Soon after, Soyoko becomes a workaholic as she starts to consider other career paths, even lashing out at her co-workers as they see for themselves her turn in attitude. And she eventually collapses due to stress. Like Shu, the protagonist really doesn't impact her demeanor or opinions at all, regardless of what you choose. Once the first weird ranks are done with, he's pretty much just along for the ride. This makes the whole social link entertaining but completely off the rails, with the protagonist having no agency. To emphasize this, the nurse just quits and leaves without warning, going on about finding a path she gave up on, with the epilogue showing us that she's working hard, volunteering in Africa, helping people.
I guess that's inspiring and all, but wasn't she helping people before in a very important line of work? And getting paid for it?
Oh well, the devil suitably does introduce the death social link though, which is another fantastically creepy set piece the first time you see it. Still, the whole thing is too chaotic to find itself into the higher ranks.
From here on, the quality jumps quite a bit. It was really difficult for me to rank the rest, a true testament to the strength of the remaining social links in Persona 4. The sun is finally starting to rise.
One of the extracurricular links available in the game, Ayan serves the prototype for meek, underappreciated wallflower character. It's not too original at the outset, which hurts the link's overall appeal. The cliches are everywhere. The smallest student in the band class playing the largest possible instrument, and she really, truly sucks at playing it to start. She tries to make up for this by doing every single chore and unappreciated management task. But, surprise surprise, the star trombone player is injured, and suddenly she's thrust into the spotlight. One thing I gotta say that surprised me is that the no-name band leader actually isn't a jerk. He puts confidence in Ayan that she can replace the star player, and gives her some reassurance. Nice to know that someone other than the protagonist can inherently be decent.
The hero can't be the only good guy in an RPG, although some narratives make us think that that might be the case.
So Ayan's plotline is quite simple, as from here she continues to put in the work to make sure the band's performance succeeds. But of course, the star player miraculously heals, and she gives up her spot. Despite having the backing of the captain again, it's her choice. And here's where the worthwhile message behind Ayan's struggle shows up, which helps it rise above some of the other social links. This matter-of-fact statement of sometimes needing to be more selfish.
I think I need to start being more selfish.
It sounds awful hearing it on the surface, but it is a message we have to tell ourselves sometimes. What we want does matter. Don't spend your entire life deferring to others.
This includes getting to know others too. By not doing anything and refusing to express opinions, we're being selfish and not giving others an opportunity to get to know us. You get a real solid foundation of where this girl's going. And again, the band captain notices and makes it easier for her to continue her dream. This guy's the best no-name NPC ever. Ayan's confidence grows to the point where she gives the hero an invitation to attend her upcoming festival, where she will be one of the main performers. She's realistic about the timeline, as the TBA date shows, but the determination is overflowing. This link struggles to stand out for the majority of the time, but I feel the last couple ranks do a lot to prove how far Ayan has come from the beginning of the story. This helps her move up a few spots, like a rising sun.
Speaking of the sun, why don't we just keep it shining? I did not do this on purpose. It just so happens that the two sun social links are on pretty even footing. It's like Tatooine! Or something.
Unlike Ayan's gradual build-up towards self-prioritization and uplifting strength, Yumi's actually plays out exactly the opposite, getting broken down the further it proceeds. She begins the social links as a talented but imposing figure within the drama club. Even the club's president can't do much to rein her in when her passion and performance expertise takes over the dramatic drills. This one also gets a bonus point for having the amusing line memorization drill that the player actually has to remember to have the hero impress Yumi. It matches an actual drama skill set completely.
There's some real stakes to this social link, which arise pretty early on.
Yumi gets word that her mother's in the hospital, only to find out that this was a ruse set up by her mom to convince her to visit her dying father, who had bailed out on the family years ago. I can't imagine the emotional trauma and conflicting urges one would have in this situation. The social link definitely taps into our empathy, despite the situation being such a rare case. She wants to just leave the man to rot because of his infidelity and awful choices, but the biological bond, the fact that he was responsible for bringing Yumi into the world, it still wins out in the end, as she is found visiting him, even feeding him during his final days. The fact that the protagonist actually witnesses Yumi's father's death firsthand as he repents makes this very powerful.
Dad! Dad!
It's much more poignant than the nurse just telling us about all her previous patients, whom we never see or hear from. The problem with this social link is that it's so disjointed. It's trying to make a connection to Yumi's acting as an escape from her own sorrow, but her acting barely has any screen time. For over half the social links, the hero is just consoling her at the hospital, so it lacks the double-pronged approach it was going for. You also aren't punished by being an insensitive jerk. This stop acting like a child response? Oh, that should definitely have caused a reversed social link here. My god, how did they even include that? Just a final note, Yumi falls in love with the protagonist regardless at the very end of the social link, and it's one of the toughest ones to see denied, as with all she's gone through, seeing a rejection would be one tough pill to swallow.
Bye then.
Heavy.
Speaking of heavy, there is a heavy sense of awkwardness coming up. I hope you're prepared. This social link is so uncomfortable and awkward. It's a very unsettling experience that separates itself from all the others.
At first, I figured the link was going to be more about Erie's stepson, Yuta, especially since you acquire this link by working at an after-school program with the kids. But he doesn't have much to do with it at all. This mostly follows a young mother as she struggles to even communicate with a son who clearly has some issues, largely because of having an absent father. He's defiant, hyperactive, and very tough to bond with. Like here, he just decides to go home with another random kid's parent instead.
You'd expect that the well-rounded protagonist would make a connection with the kid, and that would help the mother see through all of his flaws. But that doesn't really happen, and it's not even really the focus.
It's sad to witness how each of them want to do better, but neither knows how, and the adult should be the one to make that first step. But it's an ordeal to get to. It's also scary how naive and unmotivated this young woman can be. Like, she's listening to TV stations and putting her faith in speakers for life advice, and then adhering to the scary life path of just allowing fate to play its course, so that we don't have to be responsible for any of our decisions. Erie becomes so tough to root for. She's going above and beyond to not address what's not really working. This link continues to defy our expectations. Rank 5 has Erie simply give up even trying to take Yuta home, festering some worry from the boy. And even at rank 6, it clearly states how the two of them seem more distant apart from each other than ever, prompting the mother to shove money at the problem in a desperate attempt at reconciliation. The protagonist does help at one point, noticing Yuta's fascination with Phoenix Featherman R and suggesting this as a way Erie could find favor with her son, which immediately pays dividends as we see at the daycare. And the kid wants to repay the kindness in a shocking moment of vulnerability. After a long, arduous struggle, the two finally find that mother-son bond.
And all it took was for that kid to punch the protagonist so hard that he lands on his ass. Yeah, this guy can block a death curse attack from a literal god, but then he gets KO'd by a 7-year-old.
It would have been nice to see how the father plays into all of this. Was there some trauma Yuta had with the previous marriage's mother? Is the father a workaholic or a victim of distance work placement as the dialogue shows? Or is he just some inconsiderate schmuck who's gallivanting the globe and looking for thrills? The game never tells us any of this. Had it done so, this would have made the top half for sure. As it is though, the unpredictability of the Temperance Arcana makes it intriguing to get the conclusion for. People of all ages make mistakes and have embarrassing struggles, and this is a clear example of it.
Someone!
I know. How could I possibly put Yosuke in the bottom half after witnessing this entertainment value?
Stop right there! What did you do to my DVD?
Critical hit to the nads!
Okay. Maybe I should have ranked him a bit higher.
Yosuke fares better than Chie and Teddy at least, simply because it gives us an inside look at a whole other realm in a party member's life. In Yosuke's case, his unenviable position as the Juness manager's son. It starts pretty calmly, with him just having to deal with the locals' criticisms of big business taking over all the small shops, which isn't his fault in the least, but it soon becomes more personal, with workers trying to take advantage of him to get a more preferable schedule.
How awkward would this be? Being a single teenage guy and having to manage other teenagers, including romantic interests, with maturity and professionalism.
As the social link shows us, it'd be pretty damn tough. The spoiled workers' attitudes is definitely a realistic issue with many teenagers when it comes to wanting weekends off and thinking the world should revolve around them, but a teenager isn't usually the one who has to put up with that in an authority role. The fact that they have the gall to bring up Saki Konishi's death as a trump card to use against him, knowing how Yosuke felt about her, just makes you want to rage quit. And actually, that ends up being a pretty good response by the protagonist if you choose to go that route. There's a real sense of loneliness to Yosuke. Despite being from the city, you get the impression that he struggles to socialize and make true bonds with people. He tries to put on such an all-rounder face, asking about secret stashes and potential girlfriends, like he can handle lumps as they come. But you sense his weariness with life, and how the case has given him a renewed sense of purpose. In fact, his shadow self hammers home this point, which he clings onto for dear life, because the poor dude definitely gets the short end of the stick over and over again in the main story.
Wait! My motorcycle!
It's also refreshing to hear him confess his jealousy of the protagonist and wishing to be the main guy, because from the start, he wanted to be on equal footing, though he knew there was something special about the hero. I'm glad that the final battle between these two ends in a complete stalemate. I was half expecting Yosuke to do another cringe move like miss with his first lunging punch and fall ass over tea kettle into the river or something. He needed a good friend, more than anyone else in the game, so this is heartwarming.
That sure beat words. Well, we're all counting on you, partner.
One flaw is it has him constantly pining for Saki. I'm not making light of this, it's just that it's a constant reoccurrence in the main plot as it is.
I always wanted to tell Hana-chan.
Huh? Me?
That he was a real pain in the ass.
There comes a point when there's only so many avenues to pursue his grief.
Yosuke's link isn't bad at all. As I've been saying, there's tons of quality here. I just felt that the impact from the rest of the social links was greater. And I think we've all waited long enough for the next one.
I can't hold it any longer! My bladder's gonna explode!
Yeah, you keep fighting the good fight, Yosuke!
I gotta let it out before I piss my pants!
Naoki's Link is interesting in that you have to choose how the protagonist approaches him, and his situation makes these decisions more grueling than most. You are given immediate context as Naoki stumbles into the health ward area of the school, and given immediate pity and no responsibilities due to him having lost his sister very early on in the game's story. He takes advantage of this until the protagonist decides that enough is enough and puts him on the spot to change up his attitude. It puts us, as the player, in a very unique position. There's no clear winning phrase that you'd think would guarantee a positive response, especially once you get to know him better and he asks you those moralizing questions, or whether or not he really comes off as pitiable as the local townsfolk seem to think, always talking behind his back and gossiping. It's impossible not to feel sorry for him when he's not able to deal with his grief and being dumped on without knowledge of it, or being given orders about what he should be doing by people that aren't even in the know. But you want the protagonist to guide him into a healthier, more active mindset. The tender-hearted among us would be tempted to let him take his time, but once he begins being able to vocalize about Saki's past, it becomes clear that it's best to encourage him to take action, rather than be absorbed in grieving and thought, which he's not able to express in a healthy way until almost the very end of the social link.
Not that this would be pleasant to hear, but the lack of voice acting really hurts some of these social links.
This is one of the most cathartic moments of the script, and it should be given more weight than a few muffled sobs. Another strong element is how Yosuke gets involved in a minor role, given how smitten he was with Naoki's sister. The two are able to set personal differences aside, even the business side of it, as Yosuke's family is taking Naoki's parents' business away more each day. This is handled very maturely, and it helps fill in that hole in his character arc.
Well, we might as well end on a strong note, and thank God that this next one has more strength in it than the last Strength Arcana. It's astonishing how much better one athlete's social link is compared to the other. Ko's link is superior to Daisuke's, both in how it implements the sport they're involved in, as well as each individual's personal journey.
Instead of dealing with some overly melodramatic, unrequited love, cliched high school drama crap, Ko's Link spends time uncovering a mysterious family dynamic, which is tied to his motivation to play basketball. He's holding on to something he wants to keep for himself, which we find out is completely against the adoptive family he's been brought into. Holy, barbaric, that's a strong word. This family vibe goes very deep. It questions adopted kids' feelings of belonging and worth, especially when they have talents that are unfamiliar to the family that takes them in.
You'd think that this would be the big conflict. Kid has to prove how important basketball is to him. But no, that's not it at all. In fact, the family just gives in.
It's like, yep, you can keep playing basketball. But even after the family accepts his choice, Ko eventually wants to dismiss the sport altogether, saying it's pointless due to the chains he thinks bind him. But Daisuke, who actually does more worthwhile stuff in this than in his own entire social link, gets an actual competitive game organized, so Ko can see the fruits of his labor. The game even shows this playing out with a dramatic, agonizingly close defeat. It gets even better from here. Ko goes all out to try and find clues about who his real parents were, going off on his own to the orphanage that he grew up in. And the game never gives us a clear definitive answer. The letter itself states that Ko's parents both died shortly after dropping him off, but there's a suggestion that the orphanage manager felt pity for him and forged that letter. Nothing is confirmed though, and the astonishing thing is Ko is okay with this ambiguity. He finds solace in the fact that someone at that orphanage was kind, and more importantly, that his family does accept him. What's more, this whole thing fits in with the finding the truth mantra of the game. It's strong stuff.
Like some of the others I've mentioned, the Link's main flaw is not seeing how all of this actually played out behind the scenes.
Where is this ultra-strict family? Where is the emotional floodgates opening when Ko finally asks them point blank whether they want him as their son or not? The whole thing is set up with so much depth, but we just have to take Ko's word for it and imagine a lot of it. This could be top tier material if there was an effort made to include the family in at least one of the ranks. I mean, that's what the whole theme seems to be at first, but his final message of being shaped by those around him is a great foil for that, and reminds us that blood is only one way that we are linked to others.
Well, that concludes the worst half of Persona 4's social links. Air quotes were there just to emphasize that most of these are pretty damn good at giving us insightful commentary on life experience and the meaning of truth.
Aside from the first two absolute duds, which offer so very little, everything else has some worthwhile messages, moments of levity, unexpected twists, and tough dialogue decisions that prop up the game's simulation elements well.
But they don't succeed quite as much as our top 12. Tune in next time when we dissect the best dozen social links in Persona 4. Good to see you, gamers. Take care of yourselves, and please like and subscribe if this was entertaining. Until next time.